All right, we're back. We're doing the week 3 picks. The other episode that we did, not yesterday, but the day before this, will be going live on YouTube today, as well as this video. We're just going to be doing our picks for the week. I'm going to try to predict all the games as accurate as possible. I'm not going to do it because, as you can tell, I'm at 58% so far on the year. I've gotten all the wrong upsets, so hopefully this week I'm able to get them. So we'll start off the first matchup, which is tonight. Really? First matchup tonight, Patriots versus the Jets. And Jets are favored to win in this one. They are at home, and they're on back-to-back short weeks. The line is at the spread, I guess, 6.5, so a touchdown. I wanted to pick the Patriots in this, but I kind of feel like they have all the same strengths, where the Jets have a really strong secondary and they have a really strong cornerback one in Sauce Gardner, and the Patriots are kind of similar in that way with their very strong secondary and Christian Gonzalez is their QB1. And then they also both have very good front sevens, and they have pretty good run games and pretty good offensive lines. However, I think the Jets have the better quarterback, and they have the better wide receiver in Garrett Wilson, which might be able to exploit some things that the Patriots can't do offensively. Jacoby Brissett has more limitations to his game than Aaron Rodgers does. And that's why I think I'm going to pick the Jets, as well as they are at home. So I do think, however, the Patriots will cover. I think that this will probably be like a field goal game, like a 16-13 or a 16-10 type of game. Really low scoring, but the Jets, squeeze it out like they did last week. So on to the next matchup. I probably won't be picking the Giants in like any of their games this year, so I'm going to go with the Browns here. Their defense is so dominant, and they have the better offensive line and run game and wide receivers and quarterback. I like their coach better, too. I think Kevin Stefanski's probably just a little bit better of a coach than Brian Daboll. But, 1 second. There we go. All right. So, we'll see how that goes into effect. But I do think the Browns are the better team. I really like their defense, and their front seven, I think, is a lot better than the Giants. The Giants got Brian Burns, and they were able to put a lot of pressure on Jaden Daniels, who was managing just fine. He hasn't turned over the ball at all this year, which is nice. But, Myles Garrett and JOK and the secondary and just all the front seven has just been balling again this year, and I expect them to win this game. I'm guessing the spread's probably 7, 6.5. So I definitely like the Browns in this one. Also a home game, so that might play into effect to it. I can see like a 24-13 type of game, and the Browns win this one. So on to our next matchup, the Packers versus the Titans. Jordan Love might just play in this game, and this team was able to win without him last week, right? They were able to win versus the Colts, who I think are a much stronger team than the Titans are. The Titans lost to the Jets last week. Will Levis just probably won't be able to go a week this year without having some disastrous player turnover. I was kind of hoping he was able to take a step this season, and it's not looking like it's going to be there with them. The offensive line did take a step, and the defense has taken that step as well. I felt like the defense has played pretty good these first couple weeks. I think they're kind of up there in the DVOA and the PFF grades and whatnot. But Packers won last week. They played really close against the Eagles. I think if Jordan Love plays in this matchup, they should be able to beat the Titans. They got Josh Jacobs and all those wide receiver weapons and the better coach. And I'm going to take the Packers here. Let's see what the spread is. It's only... Tennessee is favored. Is that for real? All right. Well, I think... I don't know. I think the Packers are a lock for this game. I'm not going to lie. I think the Colts are a much better team than the Titans. I think the Jets... Not the Jets. What am I saying? The Packers are a much better team than the Jets. And Jets just beat the Titans. Packers just beat the Colts. I'm going to have to lean with the Colts here. Or not the Colts, Packers. All right, for the next matchup, we got the Bears-Colts. Bears are 1-1. Colts are 0-2. I feel like the Colts are a little due. Their front seven is like ferocious. I think they have a great front seven that can stop the run and get after the passer. They've had some injuries already this year, but the Bears' offensive line is just so bad. The interior needs so much work. They haven't drafted like any offensive linemen or spent like barely any capital for the last 4 or 5 years, right? Well, they got Darnell, right? Obviously, right? But on the interior, they have not spent any money or spent any draft picks on any interior offensive linemen, and they haven't panned out. And that pressure has just been getting on Caleb Williams. Obviously, it's not all just on, the play calling. Well, I think it is a little bit of a play calling and a schematics thing. But obviously, it's not all just the offensive line. You can't just blame everything on that offensive line. So I got to say, Caleb Williams needs to be more accurate, more on time, be more on page with his wide receivers in this one if he wants to try to get a win. I do think this will be a closer game than maybe some people might think. I don't know exactly what the consensus is, what people are thinking. So, yeah, Indianapolis is favored by 1.5, so this should be a close game. I think Anthony Richardson's the better quarterback. I think they have the better offensive line, and I think their front seven is better. Their secondary is probably not as good as Chicago's, but I really like the Colts in this one, and it's a home game. Anthony Richardson needs to get back on track and ball out in this one. They also need to open up that run game, but I think they should do that and beat the Bears this week. So on to the next matchup. We got the 2-0 Vikings with Sam Darnold versus the 2-0 Texans with C.J. Stroud. I think the Texans are probably like a 6.5 favorite. 2-point favorite. That's okay. I don't want to call the Vikings frauds or pretenders because I do really like Sam Darnold. And this is a team that I have been hyping up in the offseason, even with J.J. McCarthy getting injured. And I do really like what Flores is doing on the defense, and I like their defensive front seven and how they're able to hide some of their secondary players like Stephon Gilmore and some of the other guys that are in the secondary. The secondary looked like it was going to be atrocious this year, and they've held up just fine, and I think it's because of how Flores has been able to dial up blitzes and blitz schemes and whatnot, right? So, and you do have Sam Darnold, who's been on a hot streak, and the offensive line's very good. Justin Jefferson is questionable in this one, and I think Jordan Addison is questionable. They're going to be without T.J. Hawkinson. I think the Texans' defense and their offense is just too much. I think they are legit, and I do think they are going to be a 13-win team, and they might just be the 1 or the 2 seed this year. I think C.J. Stroud is going to hit the ceiling that everybody thinks he's going to hit, and that's why I got to pick the Texans here on the road to beat the Vikings. I don't think the Vikings are necessarily going to be a playoff team this year. I think they're going to be a year away, maybe even a year away from being a year away. Just because we have to watch J.J. McCarthy develop into the quarterback that, everybody might want him to become. So I don't think Sam Darnold is necessarily going to be able to take that step against this Texans defense to beat them this week. So he did play good the first 2 weeks, but maybe a couple Sam Darnold mistakes here, and the Texans are just they just have too many superpowers. Take Dell Diggs, Dalton Schultz, Nico Collins, Joe Mixon, C.J. Stroud, the defense. So I think they should be able to squeak out this win and beat the Vikings. However, I do think it'll be a close game. I think it'll be a close game like the Bears game. I think it'll be a close game like the Vikings and the 49ers game. The spread was only like, 2.5? It was 2. So, yeah, I think they should cover by like 6. I think the Texans win this one by like 2 field goals or a touchdown. Next up, I also have been pretty high on the Saints. I was really high on them not really high on them. I really liked their defense. And I liked their offensive line additions, and I liked the wide receiving core. They're kind of Texans-y, if you think about it. Young offensive coordinator, Drew Petzing. from the Shanahan system, or is it Kubiak? Is it Petzing or Kubiak? I think it's Petzing. Derek Carr's not as good as C.J. Stroud, however. Chris Olave is not as, you know what I mean? This is like a very Texans-y team that's just not anywhere near their caliber. But they have the defense, they have the weapons, and they have the quarterback, I guess. But so do the Eagles. They have a bunch of superpowers. They got Saquon. I know he had that huge drop on third down. Whatever. You got Devonta Smith, A.J. Brown, Goddard, Jahan Dotson, I guess. And you have Jalen Hurts in the offensive line. I think in this one, the Eagles bounce back from last week's loss, and they rally and win against the Saints, who are off to a crazy hot start. But maybe the Eagles just outduel the Saints this week. We'll see how the Saints hold up again offensively. They've scored 40-plus points in their last 3 matchups. And this has been a very fun team to watch so far in this year. But much like the Vikings, I think they're just kind of due for a loss. And I think they're just playing another team kind of similar to them that just have more superpowers. They have the better play caller. Maybe I'd take the Saints play caller over Kellen Moore, but better play caller, better superpowers. So far has not fared very well for my regular season matchups, but I do like them. I like them a good amount. So I like to take the Eagles in this one. I picked them to win their division, and I picked the Saints to go like the 4 seed, so I think this is where they have to lose a game, lose to the Eagles. And for the next matchup, our 2-0 pretenders. Who is going to win this one? I think this will be a really awesome matchup because I feel like I feel like this is where the NFL is going right now, where you have the defenses, right? I feel like the offensive schemes are starting to slow down. The passing game is starting to slow down, and we've seen it more and more each year over the past 5 years. We've had less touchdowns, less passing touchdowns, less passing yards. Defense efficiency has skyrocketed. Defensive play calling has skyrocketed. The blitz rates and blitz packages have just changed tremendously. The way that Mike McDonald has schemed things up and Brian Flores. And that's the way that the Chargers and the Steelers are headed. However, I feel like the Chargers are more on an advanced path with their defense. That the Steelers, they're still running the Mike Tomlin system that has not really changed a lot, but they have a whole bunch of guys right. There's Mika, there's TJ Watt, there's a whole bunch of guys there on defense, right? So I'm not gonna discount them like they're just some bum defense. However, I like the Chargers' defensive play calling better, and I like their scheme. They don't have the same guys that the Steelers have, but they do have Justin Herbert. They do have their quarterback. They do have their offensive line, and I like this offensive line a little bit better than the Steelers. However, I do think they're very similarly built. They built their teams this year in the draft very similarly, right? Chargers don't have a whole lot of weapons. The Steelers don't have a whole lot of weapons. They got a good run game, right? This running back duo. The Chargers have their running back duo, right, with Dobbins and Gus Edwards. Steelers have Jalen Warren and J.K. Dobbins. So this will be, I think, a really nice schematic game. I think Justin Herbert might just be the edge over Fields or Russ or whoever's starting. I don't know if Russ is back yet, but I like the better coach. I like the better offensive line. Alt and Rashawn Slater are the best tackle duo in the NFL. I do really like the Steelers' offensive line, but I think the Chargers squeak out like a 19-16 win. This should be a really good game. It is in Philly, but I got to pick the Chargers. I think the Chargers are not the fraudulent team, and I think they're going to start out 3-0, which I don't think anybody really expected this season. I probably would have if I knew their schedule. I didn't know they started out with the Panthers and the Raiders and the Steelers, but they do, and I think they're going to be 3-0. So the next matchup that I'm going to pick here is we got the Broncos versus the Bucks. Baker's rolling. It's the Bake Show. I'm going to pick the Bucks. The Broncos are terrible. They're going to be picking in the top 5. Their defense isn't very great. Their offense isn't very great. Their quarterback isn't very great. Their weapons aren't very great. And the Bucks are kind of cooking, man. I know they played the Lions secondary and the Commanders, right? So it isn't a whole lot. But the Broncos aren't a whole lot either. So the Bucks might stay on this pretender path. But this way they'll take the 1 seed or the number 1 spot from the division that I want the Saints to have. So I think their defense is a lot better. Their front seven should match up a lot better than the Broncos will. Um, their run game is horrible, but Baker Mayfield, if he keeps playing the way he is against this Broncos secondary, then I think they should easily come out with a win in this one. Next up, we got the Panthers versus the Raiders. I would pick the Panthers if they had Bryce Young. I want the Panthers to win. I want Bryce Young to be good, and I'm really rooting for him. And I'm kind of rooting against the Raiders. Not a big Raiders guy, but I think the Raiders are going to win in this one. Gardner Minshew kind of just pulled one out last week against the Ravens. Devontae Adams is absolutely amazing still a top 5 wide receiver. They have weapons all over the place on this offense, and I think it'll be just too much for the Panthers offense to compete with and their defense. And the Raiders front seven is so great. Like the way they were able to put so much pressure on the Ravens, which I don't really like the Ravens offensive line anyway, but the Raiders with Christian Wilkins and Max Crosby on the defensive line is just insane. It's so crazy, and that should probably demolish the Panthers offensive line. They won't get much going again in the run game, and I don't think with Andy Dalton they're going to get a whole lot in the throwing game either. So, in this one, I'm going to take the Raiders. In my next matchup, Miami is without Tua. He's on the IR. He has the concussion injury, right? So, Seahawks have a top 5 defense so far in this year in DVOA and EPA. And Geno was very efficient last week. Charles Cross is right now the best offensive tackle in football, I believe. And at least in the pass game, right? So, Ken Walker is not playing in this one. DK Metcalf is injured. But I think the Seahawks are going to be too much offensively. And Mike McDaniel and the Dolphins offense won't be able to keep up with the Seahawks defense. Which, if we kind of take it back to last year's matchup with the Ravens and the Dolphins, what Mike McDonald was able to do against the Mike McDaniel system was kind of incredible. That team blew out the Dolphins in a very crucial matchup for both teams. This was playoff seeding on the line, and Tua had no answers. I don't think Skylar Thompson is going to have any answers really for the Seahawks defense, and I know the Seahawks have played 2 close games against 2 not great teams on paper, at least. I think the Patriots are a lot better than people make them out to be, but I got to take the Seahawks without Tua, right? I don't think there's much on that one. Now, on this one, I'm actually surprised 66% of the people are picking the Ravens. But I think the Ravens are the better team. I think they have the better run offense, and I think they have the better run defense, and the better... I think their pass defenses are probably even. I think they have the better quarterback. They don't have the better wide receivers or weapons, but they have the better run game. And if we're looking at last week's matchup with the Saints, the Cowboys cannot stop the run. And that's been kind of Micah Parsons' problem, is he can't really set the edge. He can't really stop the run. And if they just run, they might just run all over the Cowboys, right? I can see the Ravens rushing for over 200 yards in this matchup. You know, you got that Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson tandem. If you get Derrick Henry cooking and get some offensive chemistry and the play calling rolling, I think the Ravens should win this game by like 10 points, right? So, I'm going to take the Ravens. Dallas Cowboys can't stop the run, and they can't run, right? They can't defend against the run, and they can't run. And I think that's going to be a problem against these run-heavy teams like the Ravens, and a run-heavy team like the Saints, which is kind of weird to say, Saints run-heavy offense, but they are. They are a run-heavy offense, all right? And I think I like the Ravens in this matchup. I do want to see what the spread is, however. Only 1 point, so it's just whoever wins. I got to take Baltimore in that one. Yeah. All right. Sorry. All right, so for the next matchup, the Rams are without Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua and like 3 offensive linemen and like defensive linemen and defensive secondary. This team is so unbelievably injured. I think they'll look like that team when the year after they lost the Super Bowl when Cooper Kupp was injured. Matt Stafford has a lot of work to do in this one, and the 49ers are coming off of a pretty brutal loss last week against the Vikings. I just got to take them upright against the Rams. I don't even care what the spread is. I would take them with the spread as well. Cardinals, Lions. Gotta go with the Cardinals, baby. It's Kyler Murray season. Kyler Murray is cooking, man. I've seen too many Kyler Murray edits, though, so I might be a little Kyler Murray pilled. I think the run games are kind of even. I think Kyler Murray adds such a great dynamic, kind of the same way Jahmyr Gibbs adds to the Lions. And then you got James Conner, and their offensive line is pretty good. And dare I say I like the Cardinals' wide receiver weapons better. I could say Marvin Harrison Jr. is almost on the same level already as Amon-Ra St. Brown. I want Amon-Ra St. Brown to be the best wide receiver this year for fantasy purposes. But if we're talking in terms of skill set and skill ceiling and whatnot, I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is right behind Amon-Ra St. Brown. And I like Michael Wilson and Greg Dortch better than the other wide receivers on the Lions. And I like Trey McBride better than Sam Laporta as well. So I'm going to take the Cardinals in this one. I think their defense is not as good as the Lions. However, it's kind of sneaky good. And they were really good against the Rams. I know the Rams have like some offensive line issues that I just talked about and some wide receiver issues that I just talked about. But what they were able to do against the Rams last week that the Lions were not able to do in week 1 was very surprising. And I really like the way Kyler Murray plays in the first half of every season. He's going to be the MVP candidate for the next, 7 or 8 weeks. So Lions get upset. It is a home game for the Cardinals. I do think it'll be a close one, though, like 27-21 in favor of the Cardinals. This should be a really good game. But I'm going to take the Cardinals. Maybe I should take the Lions, but I'm going to stick with my guns here and take the Cardinals. Say they have the better offense. I'm not going to say they have the better play caller. I don't want to say they have the better defense because I do like the Lions defense, but I would take the Cardinals straight up right now. All right, my next matchup, we got Big Kirko versus Patty Mahomes. I got to have a couple upsets, right? Is this my upset? Kansas City squeaks by the Bengals last week, who were without Mims and Higgins, and their run defense is terrible. And now Kansas City is without Pacheco. And I don't think they should have won that one. And maybe Patrick Mahomes makes some more errors and turnovers versus this Falcons team, and Kirk Cousins keeps them in the game, and they keep Drake London and Kyle Pitts and Bijan involved, and they kind of just dominate on the ground. And this is one that I can see the Falcons just squeaking out because that AFC South is going to be very tough this year, and they might be 2-1 and make the Chiefs 2-1 as well. So, what's up, Aldrin? Aldrin, should I not be picking against the Chiefs? Oh, we got Colby in here. Colby, should I not be picking against the Chiefs, or should I pick against the Chiefs? What's the prediction for tonight? I'll pull it up, brother. Don't tell Lexi this. Don't tell Lexi this. I told her in the group chat that I would be picking the Patriots. I changed my mind. Well, I was at work when I texted that, and then I kind of thought about it. I was like, all right, so Patriots have a good defensive line. The Jets have a better defensive line. The Patriots have a really good linebacking core. The Jets have a better linebacking core. Patriots have a very good cornerback, very good secondary. Jets have the better cornerback. They have a better secondary. Patriots, they have just a fine quarterback. The Jets have a good quarterback. Patriots have a good running back. The Jets have a great running back. And the Jets also have a great wide receiver that the Patriots just don't have. However, it is a division matchup, and the Patriots own the Jets, so I did say it was going to be a close game. Jets are on back-to-back, short weeks, if I can talk. So I picked the Jets anyway. They're at home versus the Patriots. They squeeze this one out. And then for your Ravens matchup, just for your information, I did pick the Ravens. I wasn't going to pick against the Ravens. That's messed up, right? Why would I do that? So, yeah. I took the Ravens tonight. Not tonight. What am I saying? Sunday. This is going to be back-to-back weeks where I can't watch the Ravens games because it's just at the same time as the Seahawks game. I have to watch. Ooh. I don't know if the Seahawks game will be my local game. It'll probably be this one or this one. That's okay, though. I'll be watching not the Ravens game because it won't be my local game. So, Um, I'm going to pick the Falcons for an upset. You just need upsets in the NFL, and this is one of them. It's only a 3-point spread. Like, look at this passing efficiency. It's such a defensive league, man. We got the better running back. I think we... Damn, Rashee Rice is popping off, man. Yeah. Yeah, at home. Kirk Cousins in a primetime game. Maybe I shouldn't take him in a primetime game. Back-to-back primetime games. Kirk Cousins wins it. He shows up. And the next one, I think the Jags are bad. Trevor Lawrence has... It's so sad, man. I just want Trevor Lawrence to be so good. So bad. And my sleeper, Brian Thomas Jr. My GOAT. My GOAT, James Cook. Look at this running efficiency compared to ETN. Don't go against the Chiefs, dude. Come on, man. I have to. Who do you have versus the Jags and Bills? Because I'm going to take the Bills. Better quarterback, better defense, better offense, better team, better coach. Doug Peterson's getting fired this season. Taking the Bills. There's 2 Monday night games. I don't like that. I don't like it when they do 2 Monday night games. Although I don't necessarily mind it. It's not the worst thing ever. I honestly don't mind Tuesday night games though either. Next up, Commanders Bengals. Yeah, I gotta go Bengals. I picked the Bengals last week. I did change my answer off stream. I know I'm fake, but Commanders defense is horrible. And it's Joe Burrow. And I think T. Higgins should be back this week. Yeah. So, yeah, it's a 7-point spread. I would take the Bengals to cover. Joe Burrow's playing pretty good. Jaden Daniels has 410 yards. It's not too bad for a rookie. See these Jaden Daniels stats. 75% completion percentage. Yeah, his QBR is pretty low. I saw his Jaden Daniels' pressure percentage, and he has completed like 20% of his passes when under pressure, which was a league low. However, his sack percentage wasn't super high because he does have the scrambling. Lamar was pretty close, man. Lamar was like 35% completion percentage under pressure, but so was Josh Allen. Josh Allen was right around there, but to be fair, their sack rate was a lot lower than what Jaden Daniels was, and their sack rate was a lot lower than a lot of other players that could not scramble. So, like somebody like Jared Goff and Geno Smith, even though Geno Smith can scramble, he does have that ability. Their sack rates were super high. So total points scored, Bengals are going to have 34, and the Commanders are going to have 14. So what would that put us at? 58? Off the top of my head, I think that's 58. What's like the over-under? 47? I, like, honestly, always smash the over, I think. Bengals try to avoid 0-3. They will. Look at this point spread. They're leading the division. Alright, so I'll recap it for you guys. So, first week, we picked the Jets. Just overall better team. I don't even want to say that, because honestly, it's overall better team for everybody that I picked, I think. So, Browns over the Giants, Packers over the Titans, Colts over the Bears, Texans over the Vikings, Eagles over the Saints, Chargers over the Steelers, Bucks over the Broncos, Raiders over the Panthers, Seahawks over the Dolphins, Ravens over the Cowboys, 49ers over the Rams, Cardinals upsetting the Lions, Falcons upsetting the Chiefs, Bills beating the Jags, and the Bengals blowing out the Commanders at home for Monday night. And that should wrap it up for us. So that was my week 3. I don't think it's too bad. I think we should be a lot better than last week. I think I'm normally better the later we go on into the season. Obviously, after we can kind of tell how good teams are. Probably most people are. Obviously, it's very hard to predict how teams are going to be week 1, week 2, week 3, maybe even week 4, but then you start to get to bye weeks and injuries and whatnot. So, upset of the week, though. Falcons are upsetting the Chiefs. So, lock it in. And this should be up on the YouTube. So, if you're watching on YouTube, check out the Twitch. It'll be in the description. I think I should be an affiliate after this